All right, we are live. Hello, everyone. Welcome to my live stream of the September 2018. For those of you who don't know what this live stream is going to be about, this live stream is basically going to be me talking about all the 2018 movies that I saw this month. I'm going to start off by saying a couple of things. First off, I am sick. I've been sick since Friday, so if I sound a little weird or anything, I do apologize. I'm going to try my best not to sound so congested and all that kind of good stuff, and to try to speak as much as I can without coughing. And another thing too is I would like to issue an apology because my last video I did the top 5 most anticipated films of the fall movie season, and I stated that I was going to do a review of The Nun. I didn't do it. And the thing is, college has been so busy for me this past month. Just a lot of unexpected things have happened, and just kind of chaos happened. So I couldn't really do any reviews of my own. So I do apologize for that. But from now on, after this video, this weekend, expect either Venom or Star is Born. Like, you have my word for that. I don't know which one I'm seeing first, but this won't happen every month where like I'll be doing a month recap of all the movies I saw. It's just a one-time thing for this month in particular. So this weekend, I'll be reviewing both because I'll be watching both this weekend. So yeah, those will be individual reviews, so expect that to happen. But in any case, this live stream is happening because we're at September 30th. Tomorrow's October 1st. This month flew by. Holy crap. Like, September went by like Flash Gordon in DC, man. I mean, that shit went by quick. And I'm going to be talking about all the movies that I saw this month. Now, it's not going to be very detailed reviews of each film. I'm not going to spend like 5 minutes on the 7 films that I saw. That'll be like a 35-minute podcast, and I don't think it should be that long. More like me discussing, the plot briefly, my initial thoughts, and this live stream, I will interact with the chat if it's active, if you guys want me to add on some things, because, this is a very chill thing, I'm not going to be a hard ass or just mad professional, at least in this live stream. So I'm going to be chill and laid back so you guys can have a good live stream and all that kind of stuff. All right, so 5 people are currently watching and only 1 person in the chat, Danny Russman. So for those of you watching and for Danny Russman in the chat, thank you for watching this live stream, and can't wait to talk about the movies that I've seen. And if you want to comment on some things, you want to agree with me on some movies you've seen or some other films that you're going to mention that I haven't seen, by all means, please do so. All right, without any further ado, let's get started. So, as I stated before, I've seen 7 movies in September 2018 releases. So, this is the first movie that I've seen that I'm going to be talking about. All these movies are in order by release date, by the way. So, yeah. First movie I'm going to be talking about is The Nun. So, The Nun is a film that is a spin-off of the Conjuring universe. Now, it's a spin-off of the character The Nun who was in The Conjuring 2. So this is more of a prequel to the Conjuring films. The Nun focuses on the Nun character. It's more of about there's a priest and a nun. Well, she's not a nun. She hasn't taken her vows yet, but they both are setting out to mission. They're going to this place because a nun mysteriously committed suicide, and they want to go to the place to investigate what happened. And while they go into the place, they discover that they're not alone, that there is this demonic presence around them. And basically it becomes a fight for survival, and they have to find out what the hell is going on and all that kind of good stuff. Okay, so in terms of me with the Conjuring universe, I love the first one. Excellent horror film. I rewatched all these movies, by the way, prior to The Nun, and the first one is a terrific horror film. The first Annabelle is garbage. That was god-awful. I could not believe how bad that was. Conjuring 2 is a really good sequel. I thought it was great. I would give the slight edge to the first one, but the second one is like almost on par for me. And Annabelle Creation was pretty good. So 3 out of the 4 movies I've loved or genuinely liked, and Annabelle was just trash. So I was curious to see how this movie would rank among the other Conjuring films. I wasn't too excited though, because admittedly I kind of feared this would just be a cash grab that wouldn't be very good. I saw the film, obviously, and I have to say, this movie sucked. This movie was pretty bad. Now, I'm not going to go and say that it's one of the worst horror films I've ever seen in my life or anything. This is, by all means, miles and miles better than the first Annabelle. I mean, this is the Dark Knight compared to the first Annabelle. Like, there is no question. But, unfortunately, it's not a good movie. Now, here's what I will say. The acting in the movie, the actors tried their best with what they're given with. I'll give it that. Like it's the acting is fine. It's not particularly amazing or it's not awful at all. They're solid. Their characters, I'll get to that in a little bit, but the acting is fine. The directing is solid too. Like it's well shot. There's some nice wide shots of particularly one where the nun is at a certain corner and the camera's panning out and she's walking slowly. I think like those kind of shots are very effective. And there's like a couple of times where I was a little bit on the edge of my seat, especially towards the third act where things start happening. Sometimes, I was like, okay, this is actually this is promising. Okay, this is actually kind of good. Unfortunately, that's kind of where the positives end, though. The biggest problem I have with this movie is that we've seen these types of movies for so many times, and we've seen them done better. Another thing, too, is that it's very dull. It's boring. This movie is like an hour and a half, and it feels considerably longer than that. Another thing, too, is that the characters, while the actors are doing a good job with what they're given with, the characters, unfortunately, aren't very interesting. Damian Bashir, who's in this movie, and he's a good actor. I like him. And there's a potential thing going on with his character that it seemed like they're setting up his character to be a certain way, but the movie doesn't know what to do with it. It kind of just mentions it, and then nothing else really happens after that. Taissa Farmiga, who is the sister of the main actress in the Conjuring films, she does a good job. I can see a bright future ahead of her, but again, her character is just simply a nun who's trying to get her, a woman who's trying to become a nun. And that's it. There's nothing else. And there's this comic relief guy who I know people have been praising, and he's not bad in the movie, but like there's nothing to his character. So because the characters aren't so interesting, you just don't care what happens. And the thing is, I feel like myself included, and maybe a lot more other people, we wanted to see an origin story of the nun, and really, you don't really get that. You kind of get something, but ultimately, it's just a generic horror film that really relies on jump scares. It's just jump scares after jump scares. Now, the first two Conjuring films has jump scares, but you know what? They were effective, and James Wan knows how to utilize those jump scares very well. Here, they're very cheap, they're predictable, and they're so predictable to the point where you can literally count them down. Like you can go like 3, 2, 1, and then the jump scare will happen. Like you can do that so many times in this movie. It's so cheap. And it's just all the scary shit that happens. It's just, again, you've seen it all before and done better. It really felt like a half-assed movie that was made for a lot of money. And they succeeded as far as I'm concerned, because this is a massive box office hit, which isn't surprising considering it's a low budget and just fans are going to see this movie. And if you like the movie, it's totally fine. I'm just saying how I felt. The film, I think, had promise, it had potential, but unfortunately, it seemed like, you know what, let's just half-ass this thing and just make it a generic horror film that doesn't offer anything new to the genre and just makes it a very forgettable experience too. Like the day after, I completely forgot about the movie. Like I can vividly remember details of the movie because it's just so forgettable and not that riveting and not memorable in the slightest. I'm going to give The Nun a 4 out of 10. Again, some of the positives do include the acting is solid. There's some good directing, like it's well shot in some scenes, and some effective scenes too, in terms of tension and all that stuff. But a lot of the scares, for the majority, I would say like 94% of the movie, it's just jump scares, and it just sucks. So Sammy said The Nun was disappointing. Yeah, I'm really happy that I wasn't like highly anticipating this movie, because I felt like I would have been very, very disappointed if I had seen the movie with high expectations, and luckily my expectations were in check. So I got a movie that I just thought was bad. So 4 out of 10 for me, or 2 out of 5 stars. All right, next movie. The next movie I'm going to be talking about is Peppermint. Peppermint is a new revenge film starring Jennifer Garner, who is making her comeback in the action franchise. I believe her last action movie was The Kingdom, but I don't know if that counts. So I'm going to say Elektra. So over 10 years, she's making an action film. Anyway, Peppermint is about a woman who one day tragically loses her father and daughter in a shooting. And she wants to get justice by bringing these guys to court. And of course, the justice system fails her. So 5 years later, she goes training. Well, within the 5 years, she's training to be this badass. And then she goes and gets revenge. So it's a typical revenge movie. Now, here's what I will say about Peppermint. again, this is a film that I did not have very high expectations for. Not a film I had much optimism for because the trailers looked okay to me. It's from the director of Taken, which is actually a great revenge movie, and it's really solid. Liam Neeson, very fun action movie, the first one anyway. This film, what I will say about this is that Jennifer Garner delivers a very strong performance. She is by far the best thing about this movie. When the tragic thing happens to her in the first act, you feel a lot of sympathy for her, and she gets a very committed performance. You can tell she's really going through pain, and in the action scenes, what she's doing, it's believable, and I really liked her in this movie. And it's not like necessarily boring. Like I didn't like hate myself for watching it or anything. But and the complaints are going to sound very similar to The Nun in the sense that again, a movie you've seen before many times, but have just been done better. If you want a great revenge movie or a very well realized revenge movie, believe me, there are plenty of options, and it's out there somewhere that you can watch over Peppermint. The thing, again, just it's so generic. Every other character that's not Jennifer Garner is either boring, dull, or uninteresting. And the villains in particular, they're very one note. They're Mexican cartels who are just evil. There's nothing to their characters that are remotely interesting or that stand out as greater than other villains. And the action scenes, again, they're not bad or anything. Like they're serviceable, they're fine. But again, you just think to yourself, "Holy shit! I've just seen better. I've just seen this done many times before, and I've just seen better action scenes." They're not like Taken 3 where it's so bad, but again, it's like, why even watch this if I can watch something better? And the story is very predictable. Like where the story is going. Again, Jennifer Garner, thankfully she's very good because I feel like if there was another actress who was not nearly as good, like I would have straight up hated this movie. I didn't necessarily hate it, but again, it's not good. There's not really much else to say except that it's a generic revenge film that has serviceable action scenes, and you can probably watch on like Saturday at midnight if you're really bored on HBO if it comes out. But honestly, it's just not that good. I'm gonna give it again 4 out of 10, 2 out of 5. If you ask me what I prefer, The Nun or Peppermint, I'd probably give The Slight Edge of Peppermint, but they both suck, so don't take that as a recommendation to see it. Jennifer Garner is really good, but honestly, she can be in a better movie. And if you want a better revenge film, I promise you, it's out there somewhere. Sammy says Peppermint has so much potential to be a great revenge film, and Jennifer Garner was excellent. Yeah, I agree. Yeah, too bad the movie did not live up to the efforts that she gave. Okay, the next movie I'm going to be talking about is The Predator. The Predator is a new film in the Predator franchise directed by Shane Black. And there's a lot of people in this one. You have Boyd Holbrook. You have Key from Key and Peele. You have Olivia Munn. You have Sterling K. Brown. And a bunch of other people. And this film follows, it continues the Predator story. And basically, to put it in a nutshell, this little kid played by Jacob Tremblay, he's in this movie too. He accidentally triggers this sort of thing that allows the predators to come to planet Earth, and that's pretty much it. It's basically a fight against survival up until that point. There is more to the story, but I don't want to spoil it for those who are still interested in seeing the movie if you haven't seen it. So I was somewhat optimistic for this movie because it was from director Shane Black, and the trailers, despite a lot of people not giving the trailers a lot of credit, and I know a lot of people weren't fans of it, but I remain optimistic for the trailers. I was somewhat optimistic for this movie. I love the first Predator movie, the 1987 version of Arnold Schwarzenegger. That is a great action film. Again, I rewatched it, and it still holds up after 30 years. It still holds up very well. The second one and Predators were mediocre. They're not anything special to me. I don't hate them, but again, they're very forgettable and disposable. So I was hoping this new movie would be the slight edge over those Predator movies. Unfortunately, though, it follows the same path as the other sequels. To me, this is very mediocre. Now, I know that might cause some controversy because I know people who straight up hated this movie. There's some people are saying it's like one of the worst movies of the year. If I'm going to be honest with you, though, I wouldn't go that far. It's not a good movie, but I wouldn't say it's dog shit because there are some things I liked about it. I think there are some things this movie had to offer that really refrain me from saying that this is a piece of shit or anything. I mean, if you think it's a piece of shit, that's totally fine. I'm just saying what I feel. I think it's just mediocre at best. The performances are solid. I think the actors do well with what they're given with. I will say this: I didn't think it was boring. Like I didn't hate myself watching it. Like I thought it was, it was fine for what I was watching. I wasn't like, oh man, let me check my watch. What time is it? No, like I was okay with the pacing. It's just that the story was just not that interesting, honestly. And the characters, there's not much to the characters either. Now, okay, the first one, is there like a great amount of character development in the first one? I mean, not really, but there's something about the characters that make you want to root for them, and they're likable. This one, not that they're awful or anything, but like there's nothing special about them. All they really do is just tell jokes, and that's it. And another thing too is that Shane Black is known for being funny. Like you watch The Nice Guys, which he directed, and Kiss Kiss Bang Bang. He's a really funny ass guy. Like he can write some really clever shit. And there's some like funny moments in this movie. Like there's some times where I laugh, but I will say, wow, a lot of the humor for me it missed pretty bad too. And I was shocked because Shane Black usually is talented when it comes to that stuff. And he was in the first movie as well. He acted as the character Hawkins, and he was good in that movie. So I was hoping that like maybe he would take what he loved about the first one and incorporate it in this movie. And I think I got the feeling that he had passion for the project, but I really don't know what happened. It just didn't really go that well, I guess. Again, it's just, and some of the CGI is god awful. I mean, I'm sorry, and I know CGI isn't necessarily the easiest thing to come up with, but man, I cannot excuse those predator dogs that are in the movie. Those were pretty bad. Those were like Mortal Kombat Annihilation bad. Okay, no, maybe not that far, but they're still pretty bad. Again, it's just a mediocre film. It's not anything special. It's just hard to talk about these mediocre movies because the problem is that a lot of them are forgettable. And it's kind of hard to really detail specific moments that happen in the movie. And it's just this movie is just it's just passable. It's fine. Again, it is a little disappointing for me because I was optimistic for it. In terms of like what was the most anticipated, I would say like this was my most anticipated of the month, and I was hoping for more than just mediocre. It's just whatever. It's a disappointment. So what I will say is, if you haven't seen any Predator film, like any, just watch the first original one with Arnold Schwarzenegger. It's a fantastic action movie, and it still holds up really well. The sequels, I guess you can watch, but again, don't expect that much because they're just very middle of the road for me. So, yeah, I know people hate this movie, and that's fine. I just think it's very mediocre at best, and I just forgot about it. If they do make another one, which I don't even know if I'll be, rooting for it. I mean, well, not rooting for it, but not, like, I don't know if I'd be excited for it, but I'll be hoping that it'll be better and it will be the Predator sequel that we want and that we can get. So I'm going to give the Predator 5 out of 10. It's not bad. It's mediocre, but I wouldn't really recommend it. If you do want to see it, at the very least, I guess matinee price, or just wait for it to hit HBO. I wouldn't say go out and see it and pay full price. It's not really worth it, honestly. Sorry, Shane Black. I am a fan of yours, but you kind of let me down. So yeah. Danny Russman, the Predator is also kind of forgettable. The Predator to me was all right, but still disappointing. Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Kiss Kiss Bang Bang and The Nice Guys are hilarious movies. They're really good cop comedies, and they're really funny. Danny Russman, Alien Covenant over The Predator. Yeah, probably, honestly. They're both like the same to me. Anyway, that's it with The Predator. The next movie, okay. The movie I'm actually most excited to talk about, and my favorite movie of the month, and the most surprising movie of the month too. So this movie's a lot of things. A Simple Favor. Now, A Simple Favor is directed by Paul Feig, director of Bridesmaids, The Heat, Ghostbusters, and Spy. So he's a director for comedy. This movie does have comedy in it, but it's definitely more so of a thriller. So Simple Favor stars Anna Kendrick and Blake Lively. Now I'm going to be very minimal with the plot synopsis because this is a movie you have to see knowing as little as possible because that will make the movie better for you. I think the movie going experience because I didn't know much about this movie and I actually was kind of surprised with what I was watching. So to make to make it simple and sweet, Simple Favor stars Anna Kendrick, Blake Lively, and Anna Kendrick and Blake Lively. You know they're really good friends, and Blake Lively goes missing. No one knows what happens to her, and we start to investigate what's going on. We follow Anna Kendrick's character. We also follow Blake Lively's husband's character, who the actor was in Crazy Rich Asians, and yeah, and there is more things that happen, but again, I think that's the least amount you should know before, going what am I saying? No, before you see the movie, that's all you should really know. Okay, so not gonna lie, I'm not a fan of director Paul Feig. I'm in the minority with his movies. I don't find him that funny. The only movie I like was Spy. The other movies just didn't work for me. Unfortunately, I just didn't laugh or care about the other ones. And the trailer did not look very good, at least for me. And I gotta say, I was surprised. Now, do I think this is one of the best movies of the year? No, I don't. I think it's good though. I think it's a solid movie, and it has quite a lot to offer. And there is comedy in this movie, and a lot of the comedy really hits hard. Like I'm not gonna lie, there are some parts that are pretty funny, and it balances that comedy and thriller genre pretty well, in my opinion. Anna Kendrick is really good. This is one of her best performances, and Blake Lively, I'll say it's the best I've seen of her by far. She is great in this movie, and the actor who was in Crazy Rich Asians, really good too. I mean, I know apparently Crazy Rich Asians was like his first movie, and he was in this, and he knocked it out of the park in both films. Good for him, man. And yeah, I mean, the film had my interest. What I will say though is there are some pacing issues. I did feel the runtime there are times where I did feel the length of it. And the third act, again, no spoilers, but I felt like it just got a little too bizarre. Now, there are some movies that do get bizarre and it works, but I felt like in this movie, it kind of loses its steam a little bit. But with that being said, it's so good, and I would recommend it. I would recommend seeing it at a matinee price. It's a good movie. Again, I know some people are praising it, saying it's like one of the best of the year. I wouldn't go that far personally. I think it's a solid movie. I think it's a B movie. I'd give it a 7 out of 10, 3.5 out of 5. It's interesting. It's well crafted. It's funny. The characters are likable, and there's a lot of mystery to the characters. Well, more particular to Blake Lively, and you do have interest in knowing about her and her backstory and what happened and all that kind of stuff. It's just that the pacing is a little off, and what was the other complaint I had? I literally just said it. It was that the third act kind of got a little too bizarre, but good movie though. And the most surprising, because if you had told me that I would have liked this more than The Predator like a month ago, I would have laughed in your face. I would have been like, huh, no way. And here I am right now telling you that I enjoyed The Simple Favor more than The Predator. So there you have it. Simple Favor, 3.5 out of 5, 7 out of 10. I enjoyed it. It's a good movie. Yeah. Sammy says A Simple Favor I thought was pretty great. Yeah, I mean, again, there are a lot of people who are loving this movie who say it's one of the best of the year, and that's fine if you do. I wouldn't go that far. I think it's good. Just a couple of things that are refraining it from me saying it's one of the best of the year. Okay, so Simple Favor, good movie. All right, let's get to the other 3 films. Next movie I'm going to be talking about, excuse me, is White Boy Rick. Okay, so White Boy Rick stars Matthew McConaughey and Jennifer Jason Leigh and this kid. Yeah, it kind of shows how prepared I am. Let me pull up this kid's name really quick. But in the meantime, I'll tell you what the movie's about. This movie is based on a true story of this little kid named Rick. He's 15 years old. And it basically shows you how he was basically in the drug business. You know, he was doing his own thing, and how he got caught up with his family life, and something happens to him that's tragic. Then he becomes informant for the FBI. So it kind of shows you the story, and then Matthew McConaughey's character plays a big part in that movie. The kid's sister, as well as like her story going on. And yeah, so basically it's a biopic. Okay, 1 second while I get the kid's name. Richie Merritt is his name. Richie Merritt, and that's a name you should know because he's actually really good in the movie, and I feel like I'm gonna see him more often in future films. All right. Well, anyway, White Boy Rick is a film that I had, some expectations for it. Like The Predator, I was optimistic. Like this and Predator were the two movies I was like, okay, I'm not highly anticipating them, but I definitely have some expectations for them to be good because they both have promising trailers. I am sorry to say this movie was very underwhelming, to say the least. Now, best thing about this movie, hands down, Matthew McConaughey. He's terrific in this. He's really good in this. He is the best part of this movie. And there are some parts that had potential and are really well done. And towards the midway of the movie, and I don't want to spoil it because even though it's a biopic, like I didn't know the story, and some things caught me by surprise. So I don't want to spoil it. But here's what I will say: something happens that's tragic, and it looked like the movie was picking up, and then it kind of just goes blah. It's frustrating because it's just a mediocre ass movie. It's kind of boring. It's not that interesting, and it sucks because it feels like the story itself is fascinating, and it just seems like the movie, despite its 2 hour runtime, it just glosses over important things and just focuses on things that are just not that interesting. Maybe it's a fact that there's a lot of material, so perhaps a show would have been more beneficial. Like if this was a Netflix original show or an HBO show that had been 12 episodes and taken its time and be well realized, and maybe would have been a lot more effective that way. But instead, you get a 2 hour movie that is just not that interesting. That while the acting is the best part about it for sure, like everyone's good. Matthew McConaughey is great, and everyone else is pretty good, but McConaughey is the best. But still, the acting is still, it's still good. It's just that the movie doesn't really offer anything interesting. It's not that insightful in what happened. And Jennifer Jason Leigh, who gave a phenomenal performance in A Hateful Eight, she just wasted here. Honestly, I don't mean wasted as in she's like drunk out of her mind. I mean wasted as in like they wasted her potential. Anyone could have played her, and that's unfortunate. She's great. The movie just felt like a wasted potential, basically. I felt like the movie could have been something really special, and there are some glimpses of it that you can see that potential, but unfortunately, it just goes the route where it's just disposable, and it's unfortunate because again, this movie looked like it had promise, and it just didn't. I think it's mediocre. I forgot most of the movie, which is very unfortunate for me to say. McConaughey, not though. I didn't forget him. He's great in it, and he's a great actor. But the movie itself is just, blech. So I'm going to give it 5 out of 10, 2.5 out of 5. See it if you want to. I'll say wait for it on TV, honestly. But yeah, it's not that great. Okay, next movie I'm going to be talking about is The House with a Clock in Its Walls. Now, The House with a Clock in Its Walls is a family film directed by Eli Roth. Yes, Eli Roth, director of Cabin Fever, Hostel, Hostel Part 2, The Green Inferno, and Knock Knock. All terrific family films. No, I'm kidding. Do not ever take your family to see those movies. Those movies are hard rated R horror films that are very graphic. No, that's a joke. The House with a Clock in Its Walls is a family film, though. And basic premises: Jack Black and Cate Blanchett is in it, and the little kid in the movie, basically he moves in with Jack Black, who's his uncle in the movie, after his parents gets killed. And to put it short, he starts to learn how to be like them. They're not really wizards. There's a word for them. It might be sorcerers. It's not wizards, though. But anyway, he learns to be like them, and there's some evil force that's happening that you don't find out till the end of the movie, so I'm not going to spoil it, but they start to prepare for what's going to happen, and yeah, you get to see the kid adjust to a new life and all that good stuff. Now, the only two Eli Roth movies I have seen prior to this, to The House with a Clock in Its Walls, is Knock Knock and Green Inferno. I hated both of them. Now, this is not that kind of movie. It's not a horror film about cannibalism or a really messed up thriller or anything. But it is a family film, so it was kind of interesting to see Eli Roth go into a different genre altogether. And I will say, this was fine. For what it was, I enjoyed it. It's not perfect. It's not great. There are some glaring issues with it, but I gotta say, I had fun with the movie. Jack Black and Kate Blanchett are great together. Like they're a great pair. They're really good characters, and when they banter with each other, it's great to see. They have great chemistry in this. They're not dating in the movie. They're really good friends. They've been friends for years, and when they joke around with each other and they share scenes together, they're great. And the film offers enjoyment too. Like it's entertaining, and there are some nice moments too. Uh but some problems, and this is an issue. I think I'm one of the few people that has this issue because a lot of people have praised the kid, saying it's really good. For me, I wouldn't say he's really good. I think he's okay. There are some scenes I liked him in, but then when there are some scenes that involved him crying or showing a lot of emotion, because the kid's going through a lot, and there are some scenes that happen, in the third act that he's going through some things, and I just wasn't sold on it, and I couldn't help but be taken out of the movie because of it. And that's the thing with child actors. They can either be really good or really bad. In this case, I wouldn't say it's either. It's kind of like middle of the road for me because there are some moments where I liked him in, and some I thought he didn't really pull that off for me. I feel like I'm the only one who feels this way because a lot of people who have seen the movie um, have stated that that he was one of the best parts, and I'm just in a minority with that, I guess. Also, the way this movie portrays high school and bullies, again, it's a problem with Hollywood. It's over the top and all that kind of stuff. Um, there are some moments that are very generic, and some of the CGI is mixed for me. Some of them are really good, and some of them are bad. There's one CGI thing in the third act that is awful. Oh my god, it is terrible. So bad. Like it should be illegal how bad it was. And if you see the movie, I promise you, you will know exactly what I'm talking about. And some of the humor, while so I would say maybe 70% of the humor hit and 30% didn't. Like there's this running gag with this animal, and it was just stupid. It was very juvenile, in my opinion. It involves like this lion, and it was dumb. Uh, Thank you, Danny Russman. Yes, warlocks. That's what they're called. Warlocks. Not sorcerers. Warlocks. Uh, this movie for me was Goosebumps meets Harry Potter. Yeah, I definitely got a vibe from Goosebumps. Yeah, so this movie was okay. It's fine for what it is. I feel like kids are really gonna enjoy this one, and some adults might have a good time with it. I mean, I had a good time with it, so I would give it a 6 out of 10. I would go higher, but there are some glaring flaws that I had with it, and it kind of prevents me from going a little higher than that. But still, it's a fresh rating. 6 out of 10, 3 out of 5. It's okay. I'd recommend it. Well, I'd recommend seeing it at a matinee price at least. All right, and the last movie. I apologize for me coughing. Oh my god. The last movie I'll be talking about is Hellfest. Hellfest was released this Friday. Actually, it was released a couple days, 2 days ago. I saw it on Friday night. Hellfest is basically about these group of teenagers who go to this place called Hellfest, which is a horror nights kind of thing. So you basically go there and you go to these haunted houses, and there are people running at you. There are disguised as clowns, zombies. Basically kind of like Fright Fest at Six Flags or something. Except this is like a very popular place in whatever state this is taking place in. The thing is, there's a killer on the loose, and that killer is kind of hard to identify because of the location and the setting. It's kind of hard for people to identify whether there's a killer or not. And in fact, there's a killer going on, and he's stalking this group of teenagers. And from then on, hell ensues and chaos ensues, and teenagers don't know what's going to happen. So I had no expectations for this movie, honestly. I will admit, though, the concept I think is pretty cool. And I feel like with a great writer and a great director with this concept, I feel like it could genuinely really work. Fortunately, and this is like the third or fourth time I've said this, so I do apologize for sounding repetitive. It's like the director and the writers just did not utilize the concept to its full extent at all. It's like the potential was just wasted. And it's unfortunate too because I saw the potential there and they just didn't go for it. Instead, it just follows all the cliche horror tropes you can think of. And another thing too is that there's a lot of things here that don't make sense. Now, yes, I know. Horror films, you should suspend your disbelief. I know. But there are some shit here, man. I'm sorry. There's a line, and that crossed the line like no tomorrow. Like there's some things you're like, really, dude, that would never, ever happen. Let me just say this. This movie has like probably the worst, useless, idiotic security guards I've ever seen in a movie in my entire life. And the police department. And everyone in this movie makes the dumb decisions. And unfortunately, with the characters, this is again like the third or fourth time I'm saying this. And you know what? It's just the movies that's just been offered this month that's had this problem. Not interesting. Now, I will say the main character, the woman, and she has like this little love interest. And actually, that was kind of entertaining to watch. And I wish I got more of that because that's kind of like the bright light of the movie, you know, the bright spot. And it just didn't utilize that very well. And it just became a generic horror film. And it's not scary. Similar to The Nun, it just you can count the jump scares happening. You can literally go like 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and that's it. You can just get the jump scares. And the jump scares are pretty lazy too because this is a horror nights kind of thing. So of course, a lot of when you go to horror nights, if you've ever been to one, you know a lot of things pop out at you, and they just use that a lot for this movie. And I get it would have been kind of unavoidable for that to happen, but it's like most of the scares rely on that, and that's the problem. The ending scene too, without spoiling anything, I feel like it's kind of pointless because they don't set up the killer in a way where the ending scene would be necessary. I don't know, man. This movie, if they do a remake of this in 20 years, I would kind of maybe I'd be rooting for it because there's a concept here that could work really well, and it just felt like they were like, screw it, why even bother? And yeah, it's just not interesting. It's not good. I was actually pretty frustrated with the movie because of how idiotic the decisions were made, and just some plot holes, man. Especially the beginning. I mean, like, what the hell? It's so dumb. And real life, because apparently in the movie in the park years ago, this girl was murdered as a prop. If that happened in an actual Horror Nights park, you bet your ass, one, that park would be shut down forever, or two, security will be tight up the ass around that place. Like there's no way it wouldn't be. And again, it's like no security is present, and yet it's so popular. Like one of the characters even says, within the first hour, tickets were sold like that. So yet when they go into the haunted houses, these 2 or 3 characters, they're like the only people in the haunted houses. Yet it's such a popular place, and the haunted houses are like the thing of like that location. Give me a break. Like, come on. Again, I told you like that. There's a line with suspending disbelief because you know I get action movies, horror films, and you know some other films you're gonna suspend disbelief. Okay, yeah, maybe not everything's gonna happen, but this movie like crossed the line, and I'm sorry. There's suspending disbelief, and then there's just things that are retarded, and this is one of the things that are retarded. So yeah, I'm gonna give this a 4 out of 10, 2 out of 5. It's not one of the worst things I've seen. It's not good though. It's just again similar to a lot of films on this list. Just did not utilize the potential that it had, and it just ultimately became a very half-assed, forgettable movie, which is unfortunate. And that is all the movies that I saw in September. I didn't see every movie in September, obviously. So no, I did not see Life Itself or Smallfoot or Night School or Assassination Nation. I made plans to see that. I just couldn't go though. And I don't even know if I'm going to see any of those because, like I said, tomorrow's October 1st, and October looks stacked for months. So that alone is going to have me busy with the new releases. So it's pretty safe to say that September sucked ass for movies. Oh my God, this month has been garbage for films. Cannot believe how bad. This is like January all over again. January is like known for being the shitty month for movies. And September is like January this year, except for A Simple Favor, which again is not even like a great movie. It's decent at best. Everything else has been either mediocre or shit. And that's pretty much what we got. Sandy says, haven't seen A House with a Clock in Its Walls or Hellfest yet. Yeah, honestly, you're not missing out much on either of those two. Oh, Jason Fox is in the live chat. Yeah, horror movies forgot about atmosphere. Yeah, a lot of them do. Although I will say my favorite horror film of the year right now is A Quiet Place, and that uses the atmosphere and the mood very well, like that. So there are some horror films that still know what they're doing, thankfully. And there's actually 2 horror films coming out soon that I'm really excited for too. Talking about Hellfest, yes. I was talking about Hellfest before. That movie sucked. And that pretty much ends this live stream. Pretty short, I know, it was a 40-minute podcast, even though in the beginning I said I didn't want to make this like 35 minutes, but it's fine. I talked about all these movies, and yeah, September sucked ass. That's it. So, like I was saying in the beginning, don't be expecting this every month. This is probably the first time I'm ever going to do this. So I will be doing individual reviews. So like I said, I don't know if I'm seeing Venom or A Star is Born first. I think it's very likely I'll be seeing Venom first. And yes, I know I'm way more excited for A Star is Born. But the thing is, I think it's very likely I'll be seeing it on a weekend morning, A Star is Born. And if anything, I'll probably see Venom like this Friday night or something, opening night, just to get it out of the way. But in any case, I'll be reviewing both individually. So no, it will not be like this kind of video again. And there will be a lot more, insightful and thoughtful and a lot more detailed, because even though this was a 40-minute podcast, I kind of didn't really go in depth with it. I didn't really want to anyway, because then this podcast would have been like way longer if I had just gone straight to detail. So I kind of wanted to make it a little more straightforward. So hopefully that worked in that way. But yes, expect reviews for Venom and A Star is Born this weekend. And yeah, I'm definitely very excited for A Star is Born. I'm beyond hyped for that movie. I know there's an early screening on Tuesday, and I cannot make it because of work. So yeah, that's life. But anyway, I want to thank everyone for watching. I know not like a lot of people were watching, but there are some people who were watching the podcast, and the live chat was fairly active for just having me talk. So thank you guys for watching. I do appreciate it. And again, look forward to this weekend to my reviews of Venom and A Star is Born. And yeah, thank you guys. Hope you guys enjoyed this live stream. And I will see you guys later. Thanks again, guys. Have a good one.